welcome to another episode of Flashback 64, the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I'm Gooey, and I'm joined as always by McKenna.
Hello.
And we've got a pretty fun episode today. There's not a theme that really ties it together, but there are thematic things that connect our games today. We're talking about Robotron 64 and Nagano Winter Olympics 98. I guess we've talked about some arcade interpretations, and we've talked about, actually, we're coming off the heels of we're going into another Konami sports title in our next episode. So there's some connective tissues with what's going on, but otherwise this is a pretty random pairing of games. But we've got a great guest for this episode. Returning to the show is our pal Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
It's going good.
Okay.
What's anything new with you lately in the world of like retro games? What you've been doing, anything like that? I know you've got quite a collection.
So the semester just ended at the university where I teach, and so I've been pretty overwhelmed with that stuff. And also, to date this recording, Doom: The Dark Age just released, so that's what I've mostly been playing. I've been playing a little DS, the DSi, the one with the little camera on it.
Oh wow, that's a great color too. It's not like a banana looks like from here.
It's kind of a lemony yellow. I bought that one off like Japanese eBay. So presumably before any tariffs destroyed the ability to buy retro console stuff from Japan for very cheap.
Okay, well, cool. That's a great thing to get your hands on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, I guess I assume you've been going on the games we're talking about today, but
yes.
Let's
I will say I think there is a theme here that you mentioned, the arcade thing, because the Nagano Winter Olympics technically is in a lineage that starts with Track and Field, one of Konami's classic arcade games.
Oh yes. So, yeah.
It's kind of a tenuous link, but there is a link.
This is all that makes me think too. We were looking at some videos of various Olympic games, and I think this is our first time. Like we've kind of talked about first time we've covered various sports games, so this is like our first time talking about a sports compilation game almost. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll get into that with the game for sure. Before we do that, I think first thing we got to do is our flashback segment.
Hello, we are Kirby Conversations, a podcast on Kirby, along with other adjacent subjects like Smash Brothers, HAL Laboratory, and other related Nintendo games.
In each episode, we take an in-depth, well-researched look at a Kirby topic, drawing on our decades of experience playing Kirby games, creating Kirby-related content, and working in and around the video game industry. I'm Sean Douglas. I'm a theater and video game journalist.
And my name's Bridget. I'm an online Kirby commentator and collector.
Our team also includes photographer and Nintendo ambassador Kai Captain Dangerous Parker and Gigi, the editor-in-chief of Wick Kirby. Join us for deep dives into Kirby's history, interviews with industry professionals, and even inside looks at Nintendo, as together we explore all things Kirby and HAL Laboratory. You can find Kirby Conversations on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's another big episode, actually, because we are in 1998. We Happy New Year, I guess, in June or whatever. Yeah, our games finally made it. Yeah, it took us like definitely almost 2 years or something. Well, a year and a half, I think, to get through the year. So our games today are from January 5th and 29th. So we're going to talk about kind of the beginning of, most of January. So Jeremy, I told you before we started, I didn't want to spoil this. It's a monumental episode because we've been tracking it. Candle in the Wind. I think you were on previously, right? When it was number one?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
So we don't need to talk about that necessarily, but it's ending its 14-week reign at number one. So had 14 weeks. Yeah, and for us, that was many, many months.
So long ago.
Okay, here are some of the follow-ups to Candle in the Wind. We've got Truly, Madly, Deeply by Savage Garden. I love that song. I don't care. That was number one for 2 weeks, and then Together Again by Janet Jackson for a week, which I like that song. I like that song too.
I heard that Savage Garden song on the radio the other day, actually.
I still hear it like in stores and stuff. I think it's it's a great. I think it's a great hit. I don't care. I think it falls in. To be honest, it falls in my canon of songs that I've talked about on the show of like the first songs I remember ever hearing, and so I think there's just something. You throw that in with No Diggity and some Garth Brooks, and you're talking this peak 8-year-old me like favorite songs. So okay, number one albums, we talked about this already. Sevens by Garth Brooks, 5 weeks at number one. Then Let's Talk About Love by Celine Dion for a week, and then related, Titanic, music from the motion picture, number one. So, and both of those albums featured the GOAT, I guess, do we want to call it? One of the greatest movie tie-in songs of all, from Titanic, which was the number one movie all of January, I'm pretty sure. So, it had that holiday release, and that's just, in January, why even bother releasing another movie,
Well, I'm sure we'll hear about this as the podcast goes on, but I feel my memory of that movie, it was the number one movie for like a year straight. I know that's not true, but that's what it felt like, with people going back to the theater over and over again to see it.
I'm sure it probably stayed in theaters for the whole year. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was number one, but it stayed around for a long time.
All the interviews, I said, what kind of music? I said, well, I don't see myself recording a rap album tomorrow, but now I might change my mind. I kind of like the idea, you know what I mean?
In video games, so starting at the first of the year. This is for Nick McConnell. Shout out to Nick McConnell. The first of the year, the ESRB changed the K to A rating to E for everyone. That sounds fine. I like E for everyone. That's good.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's less confusing.
Video game wise, I've got a new formula for how we're gonna talk about games at the time. Before, I was pulling from a chart that was mostly telling me Japanese release dates, and I wanted to compare like the games in our timeline between consoles better. So I've got a new thing, but it's got way more games. So I'm just gonna list a whole bunch of games really quick, and we'll see what sticks. We're gonna throw it all at the wall. So on Saturn, all I had was NHL 98, Neo Geo. You had Blazing Star. Yes. Okay. Arcade, you had Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes.
Nice.
And then I got a big list of PS1 games, so get ready. Bloody Roar, Dead or Alive, Death Trap Dungeon, Batman and Robin, Alundra, Cardinal Sin, Animaniacs, 10 Pin Alley, Brigadine Legends of Forsaena, Final Fantasy Tactics, Red Asphalt, Nagano Winter Olympics, and Resident Evil 2, which we'll talk about later on this show. But that's kind of I knew a handful of those games. Definitely there's some I didn't know, but that's between Resident Evil, Final Fantasy Tactics. That's some pretty solid releases there.
There's some good stuff in there. Dead or Alive, that's a good one.
Yeah, putting us to shame a little bit. So keep it up, PS1. That's kind of what you're here for.
Well, if this was a PS1 podcast, you'd be doing it for 45 years. So.
Okay, I've got other random little. This was a lot was happening. Also, California bars, clubs, and card rooms had to be smoke free.
I'm ringing the new year with a good cigarette, and I will keep smoking no matter what happens.
Remember smoking indoor? Like you never
No.
experienced that at all. Like
It was miserable.
yeah.
Even friends and family that smoked were like, "Yeah, it's good that you can't smoke in the restaurant now."
Yeah, I'm glad. I was kind of used to it as a kid, but it makes sense now.
Yeah.
The smoking and non-smoking sections, and there would just be like not even a barrier between them.
You could smell it. Yeah, you could definitely.
Didn't matter
smell
where
it.
you were in the restaurant.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it was pretty effective. This was a good idea. So we're a pro smoking ban podcast. I'll just say that.
Well, I'll tell you that it didn't happen in 1998 in Kansas. It didn't happen until like 2002 or something. But whenever they banned smoking, like in bars and restaurants, I realized, oh, I'm not drunk and hungover. I was just constantly around cigarette smoke, and that's why I felt so bad.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
fair.
I can drink more.
I feel like when that happened around here, I was like probably like a teenager, and I didn't like smoke regularly, but I probably was like, that's fucking bullshit, you know? Like that's probably what I thought. But don't take it from me at that age. January 23rd, Michael Jordan scores double figures for his 800th consecutive game before retiring for the second time. Let's see. Oh, why do I have this in here? Posh Spice and David Beckham get engaged. January 25th. This is fun stuff, right? Also, that same day, the Super Bowl 32 happened.
Which was the bigger news.
Well, they should have
Depends
combined
on where
it.
you are.
They should have combined it into one thing. That'd have been cool. Like the Taylor Swift thing.
If you were like a middle school age girl, one of those was far more important than the other.
I understand that. Super Bowl, the Broncos beat the Packers 31-24. We watched a little bit. There was a story going into this because it was what's his name? John Elway. It was his third. He had previously, gone to the Super Bowl like 3 times, or this was his third time, and he never got the job done. Then you had Brett Favre and the Packers, and they were on a hot streak, but they beat him.
For me, after 15 years and 3 Super Bowl losses, the culmination of finally putting it together and getting that feeling of winning.
There's only 4 words. This one's for John.
It's something that I'll never forget.
Terrell Davis also performed really well in that. There was a lot of highlight. We were just watching the highlights on YouTube, which is kind of cool. They highlight all the cool parts, which is like great because I don't
There was that guy that like left.
That was Terrell Davis. He was doing
that was what. Okay.
He got a concussion. They said
they said he left because of a migraine. And then they said it was a concussion, and then he came back.
He was incredible. He was the MVP of the game, actually. It was a pretty good game from what I watched.
I mean, I don't want to be too negative about the NFL and football, but he was the MVP and he lost like 7 years of his life in that game.
Yes, actually,
goes out with a concussion, and then they shoot him up with God knows what, and he's back out on the field.
Yeah, it was scary, honestly, for sure. Okay, so I'm sorry, we're gonna get political here, but this was like everything we were watching. Like, this is what everyone was talking about because it became the big thing. We're starting to move on from OJ. January 7th, former White House intern Monica Lewinsky signs affidavit denying she had an affair with President Bill Clinton. January 17th, he faces sexual harassment charges from Paula Jones. January 26th is when he says, the famous,
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
This month was a good time for those like tabloid, like late night show stuff, because also, I didn't even write this down, but we were watching things that happened. Around the same time was when the Unabomber said he was going to defend himself in court. So people were making fun of that. And then also there was some OJ quote where he said, like, I didn't kill my wife, but if I did, it was because I really loved her or something like that. I don't know the actual quote, but that's what people were all making fun of. So this was like, it actually felt very like modern, like watching all this stuff. And I'm like, this is all like horrifying, the stuff we're,
Now it's not, oh, wow, can you believe this crazy thing happened? It's, well, of course a crazy thing happened. Everything's terrible.
Yeah, what a nasty guy, I'll say. I'm sorry, we're getting political here, but I think most people can agree. Okay. Well, this is a bummer. I don't really want to like spend too much time talking about that, but much like Candle in the Wind, I didn't want to talk about that as much, but
we get back to Candle in the Wind.
Yeah, any final thoughts for Candle in the Wind?
I mean, Sir Elton John? he's one of the greats. You know, what are you gonna? What can you say?
He is. I can't. You know what? I'll say it at the end of this. I can't deny the song. You know, it's a great song.
Yeah.
I don't have an emotional attachment to the subject, but it's a great song.
Hey everyone, my name's Darren Hupke. I'm a writer, publisher, and podcaster. My podcast is called Pixels and Polygons. Each week I sit down with a guest and ask one simple video game question. It's a random topic each week and it leads to a fun conversation. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform every Friday, and you can read more about it at pixelsandpolygons.net.
Right before we jump into talking about the games, I do want to shout out real quick because it'll still be going on, I believe, when this episode comes out. But we just launched a new podcast network called Soundstone with our pals Pixels and Polygons and Kirby Conversations. And we got a giveaway going right now where you can win a bunch of cool stuff, various books from Darren's 32-bit library, and some money to buy video games and stuff. So I'll put the link down in the description. I just want people to check that out. I think when this comes out, there'll still be like a few days left. So if you're hearing it like day it comes out, you got some time. Yeah. Okay, cool. What do we want to start with first? I guess let's go chronological order. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the order?
That's Robotron, I believe. I don't know.
On brand.
Let's do Robotron.
Robotron 64 is a twin-stick shooter in which you fight off evil Robotrons trying to exterminate the human race. There are 200 levels filled with enemies to shoot, humans to save, and power-ups to collect. Enemies include basic grunts, indestructible hulks, and powerful brains which can shoot at you and reprogram humans to attack. You can collect 1-ups, speed-ups, and multiple types of weapons, including the flamethrower, the gas gun, and multi-directional firing weapons. You'll get to choose whether you want your control stick to walk or fire, or you can use 2 controllers for a true dual-stick mode. Multiplayer mode allows 2 players to take turns, switching players each time one dies. Destroy all the evil Robotrons, and save the last remaining human family.
I love the last human family is a great part of the story. I love that. So Jeremy, I think both the games we're talking about today, you said you had some connection with, if I'm not mistaken, or do you have any history with Robotron?
I do. With Robotron, I was trying to think if I have history with the Winter Olympics.
Okay.
Sort of vaguely, but yeah, no, Robotron, absolutely. Like, I'm a big arcade fan. I know y'all go to the arcade pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty lukewarm take, but Robotron 2084 is probably a perfect game. It's incredibly influential in the history of games, in the development of games. And it kind of represented like the twin stick control. I think is such a perfect control scheme for this sort of thing, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But it sort of disappeared for a while because none of the home consoles had controllers that really worked for that, for a very long time. But in the arcade, of course, you had that. Then later you had Smash TV, which is a fantastic game, Total Carnage. And then it wasn't until like you get to like the Xbox 360, really, with like Geometry Wars and some of those games that repopularized the idea of this. But yeah, I mean, it's the original arcade game is one of those games that you can look it up and you will just see a list of basically everybody who's famous in the gaming industry saying like, that's my favorite game of all time, or, that totally changed how I thought about games, or, it's just incredibly important in that regard and a blast to play. Obviously there's some graphical and sound limitations given the hardware of the era, but even by today's standards, I think playing it is a pretty wild experience. That's, very, very action. It sounds so corny, very action packed, but you get into the groove of it. you know. And my short thought about the 64 version is it's pretty good.
Yeah,
I got more to say, but
well, sure. Did you play this back in the day, like at all, like, or were you more?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember if I actually played the 64 version, but I have played the original Robotron a lot, and I feel like I might have rented it once. I can't remember now, but I did see. I went to the California Extreme Arcade Expo in San Jose back in 2006, I think. Might have been 2007. I don't remember, but I got to see Eugene Jarvis speak at that expo, and he was like talking about the development of the game and all that stuff. It was really cool. He seems like a really friendly guy.
Yeah, so he developed that and Smash TV, correct?
Yes, he started. His first was Defender, which is another like major blockbuster that like totally continues to influence games today. But yeah, he also later came back and did Smash TV. I don't think he was attached to Total Carnage directly. But of course, then he has the what is it? I think it's called Raw Thrills, the one of the few remaining arcade manufacturers that makes all the like, SpongeBob racers and stuff like that.
They did the new Cruisin' as well.
Yes, that's true. They did the new Cruisin'.
That's just fitting because this is a Midway game we're talking about here too.
Yeah.
So some connection there. Yeah, the original is a really cool game. It's not one like that I had I definitely knew it and I definitely played it because it's at like every arcade. And it was cool to find out that it was connected to Smash TV because I always would play that one. That's just because it's such a wacky, wild game. But the original we played some together at the arcade the last time we went, and it is like a very the N64 game captures this in some ways too. It is kind of like a thrilling game, like just the way the pace, the energy of it, you know, I think you mentioned the visual style. I think the visual style is pretty cool. Like, what do you think playing it, McKenna?
Yeah, we didn't play it for too long.
We were competing.
We were doing other stuff there. Yeah.
We were,
but yeah,
very
it looked
serious.
cool. I was still trying to like figure out what was going on. I was like, am I supposed to like go run into the humans or?
Oh yeah, you're like, or like, do
what's
I shoot?
Happening?
Yeah, we didn't read the marquee, guide. We were just jumping in.
It probably could have benefited from like a slower ramp up of the difficulty because it gets hard like instantly.
Yeah.
I kind of disagree, but we'll talk about it. I'm not good at it. It is fun.
Yeah.
I went. I was in the city not too long ago by myself, and I had some time to kill, and I was near the Logan Arcade in Chicago, and I went in there, and I was like, "Oh, we got Robotron coming up," so I got. I had a couple bucks cash on me, got a couple tokens, and I was like, I'll just play Robotron until I'm out, see if I can like improve it all. And I only did very marginally and then started to do worse, but it was one when you have like the time to sit there and dedicate it to it. It is fun and like challenging. And I don't know if you had anything else to say about the original, but the difficulty is something I want to talk about with 64 version.
Maybe now that I have some experience with the N64 one, I might have a better time with the original.
Yeah. I think part two for me with an arcade game like that, it's like I'm okay with like if I die on the second level because that's what I expect.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, oh, that's like the intention. It's just whether that was fun or not. But
yeah, well, so the original arcade game is one of the games from that era that can be marathoned, meaning that there is no actual end to the game, right? So like some arcade games actually did end. Some of them ended because of programming problems, like the original Pac-Man crashes on the 256th level, or like with Donkey Kong, you get the kill screen, but this one just goes forever. And so the people that do like the high score stuff, you it's not even really about being good at the game. Like, you have to be very good at the game, but it's about being able to stay awake and play the game for like 40 hours straight. And
right.
I mean, some of those games, like I know Asteroids is one, Qbert is one that at a certain point it just kind of loops back around. And so the people that like get very serious about the high scores, which of course, you know, if you haven't seen the documentary King of Kong, you should. It's very entertaining. Oh, yeah. But it's like, okay, well, I've saved up, I've like earned so many extra lives that I can go to the bathroom for 10 minutes and come back, you know, or I can lay down and like power nap for 15 minutes and get back up.
I saw that documentary about Nibbler. There was that Man vs. Snake documentary. Yes. That was one of those where you like build up enough lives and then you go like sleep for a little bit or something while you just slowly lose lives.
And Nibbler's a pretty fun game. I've seen that one too. That's a good one. But I did find on the Wikipedia entry from the original, it says the game is hard-coded with 40 waves, whereupon the game repeats wave 21 through 40 over and over until you get to wave 255. Then it goes back to the very beginning, to wave 1. And so, like, I found a guy on YouTube, because I was like, I know this is one of those games that you can play forever, effectively. And I found a YouTube video. It's chopped up into multiple parts, but it's like 25 hours of this guy standing there playing the game. And it's just unbelievable to watch. I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, obviously. I just kind of scrubbed through and I was like, yeah, he's still going.
That's messed up.
But
that's sickening.
I know. It's
good for him, though.
I can appreciate it, but it is not for me.
So I'm like, but I think most people, you're gonna die eventually. And if you get that good, I feel like you've beaten the game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, you did it. But okay, can we talk about 64 a little bit?
Yeah.
I will preface slightly. You hadn't played it before.
Nope.
This was included in my story that I told way back when about staying with random college people on tour, some stoners who were playing this in Tetrasphere. I might have even been like confusing the Tetrasphere ball in my mind with the big head of what's the guy's name? The main character.
What is his name?
Is it what's the developer's name? Is it
Eugene?
It might be. It's Eugene. Yeah, it is Eugene.
Okay, yeah,
which is very cool. So I remember them playing in the big head.
Because he's genetically engineered. Is that right?
Is that what
Did
it is?
I remember reading that?
Well,
like,
this is the developer's name though too, right?
It might be. I don't remember.
Maybe he's genetically engineered. You have to have someone look into that. Anyway, so I remember that, but I just want to say overall, I think it's a cool game. I'll say it's fun. It's great vibes and everything, but yeah, I think they obviously they were trying to tweak sort of the gameplay balance for home, you know, to make it like, so I get that, but on easy, we had this right on easy, you just play for so long.
It takes I cannot imagine, like, well, you can only play 100 levels on easy.
Yeah.
But I cannot imagine doing 200 levels and just sitting through, like, we played the multiplayer, so we would get breaks when one of us died.
Yeah.
And that we played that for a few hours, and I was like, I at that point I was like, I could not play another 100 levels.
Yeah. It was so, and you can like save and leave, but the original game is like this, but this one is like it too, where it almost encourages you not to, you know, like the level ends and you're transported to the next one. It's go.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't want to just like stop and save it and leave, you know what I mean? Like I feel like, no, just like it should just have a shorter length, I think. And then you can add more onto it. Like you mentioned, Jeremy, the original, if you get good, you could play forever. So yeah. Why not?
I played on the normal difficulty because there are 200 levels. I think you said that. And I did use the saves because I I sat down and played it for like an hour and a half or something, and I was like, I can't keep playing. But at a certain point, I got to somewhere around like 155 or 156, and I had burned through most of my extra lives, so I only had like 2 or 3 lives. And it was difficult enough at that point, because the first 100 felt like they blew past so easily. Like they felt almost too easy, and then suddenly it got much harder. And I kept trying to pick it up again, but it was like, well, I don't have enough lives built up to finish these stages anymore. I think I'm done. I don't think I'm going to start over at stage 1 again and try to do this.
Exactly.
I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to play this every night for the next month. That's too much.
It's too like repetitive at that length. Like,
yeah.
And so that was on easy, but I also played it on hard, and I played like with the speed, like the fastest or whatever, just to see. And I'm not saying that was easy, because I didn't do very well, but it still felt like it took too long to go up. And then when it did, it felt like it kind of just like there was like one level that was like really hard. So it was like the opposite direction. I don't know if I played it, I didn't play it on normal, actually. I think I did like when we first tried it, but not for like very long. It was one where I played just to get a sense of it. But yeah, I felt like easy was like way too easy, and then hard was like hard, but also like, yeah, the challenge didn't come at the right time. It just felt like, yeah, it felt like the game was a little bit too long, a little bit too bloated.
Yeah, and
not bloated.
I think maybe padded out. Maybe that's the right way to frame it. But one thing I did like that there were bosses. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But there are only 2 of them, and I think it's the same boss twice. And I thought that was a missed opportunity to have a boss like every 25 levels or something. Like take a a note from Smash TV and some of the later games, that because they definitely mix up the gameplay a little more than the original arcade does. There's like the barrier walls and stuff that I don't think are in the original.
Not that I encountered, but yeah, there's a little bit like of stage hazards.
Yeah, they do mix it up, but I feel like they kind of didn't go far enough with that, because like I thought most of the power-ups were not that great. Some of them were okay, but yeah, they didn't last very long. And I kept comparing it to Smash TV, where it's like, oh, there's a ton of different power-ups, and pretty much all of them are cool. And, the bosses are cool and inventive. And I just think I wanted a little more of that kind of stuff. But I feel like I'm sounding super negative, and I actually enjoyed it for the most part. But I just felt like it could be a little better,
Yeah, I think it's a good game, but it is a little, I guess, disappointing or something. But it's still pretty solid. I definitely had that same thought as you with the bosses. I kind of felt like, again, I think maybe if it was just like half the length, and like maybe there's a boss that like breaking it up there. But yeah, I think
it felt like it needed a tiny bit more tweaking of that stuff, like the difficulty level and it just needed a tiny bit more, and it would have been really, really good.
That's definitely what's like the negative aspect, but I feel like there is like a lot of cool stuff in this. So I don't know if you had something to add to that, but
no, my only other gripe, and it's kind of a minor one, but it's a problem that happens with a lot of classic arcade games, is that I don't think any of the camera angles actually showed you the entire playfield at once. And that's a huge problem for these kinds of games.
I think there was one we had that worked, but there were times where if you're standing like towards a corner, it would like dip down in a weird way.
Like
it was cool,
a lot of those,
but
no, and I actually thought most of the camera angles were interesting, but like the perfectly vertical top-down one was probably the worst because it cut off so much of the total playfield.
Mm-hmm.
I think whatever the standard default one was worked pretty well, but there were a couple of times where something would come flying from off screen at full speed, and I had no idea where, that it was even there, and suddenly I was dead. But
yeah,
that's like all those like early 80s, late 70s, early 80s arcade games pretty much all of them had a 19-inch CRT display, and the way you stand with the cabinet, you can see the whole monitor at once. If you're playing Galaga or Pac-Man or something like that, you see the entire playfield at once. And then they did like the 20th anniversary Miss Pac Galaga combo arcades, and they put a 25-inch monitor in those. And you can't actually see the whole monitor at once when you're standing at the cabinet. It's too big, and that actually screwed up strategy because you couldn't focus on the characters the way you needed to. And I felt like that was the same kind of problem here, that every once in a while that got in the way. But that being said, if they had just recreated the 2D thing like straight out of the original arcade, it would have been much more boring. And I think, I don't think it would have been as good.
Especially at this time where there's like a need. Everyone's got the need to like not be 2D,
Yes.
I do think, that default one does when I did first play it, like, because I had played some of the original and stuff, it was like, it's like, oh, look, it's kind of like more, not cinematic, but it's more, like more intense camera angle. It's 3D. It was it's kind of a novelty, but there should just be like you see everything. I do agree. That should be an option for people who just want to like get serious about it and not goof around. We don't like goofing around in our arcade games.
When you're playing Robotron 64, you need to be deadly serious.
Very clearly the game is, but so I think the most unique, I think the coolest thing about it is the control style. You mentioned, Jeremy, how like the twin stick, for people who can't picture this, it's where you move with one joystick and then you use the other one to shoot in whatever direction you point it. They went away from that because not a lot of consoles had that, but on N64 you could use the C buttons, which is cool.
Yeah.
But you also did, I don't know if you did this, but
I didn't. And I was watching you two stream a little bit, and I saw you had the two controllers, and I was like, damn it, I should have played it that way.
Yeah. So you can plug in the two controllers, and you can use the second one, the joystick on that one, to shoot. McKenna, what do you think about this?
That was fun. I was expecting, I don't know, to feel weird, but it felt nice to have both controllers, be holding both of them. And
did it make you think about what you like about the, the Wiimotes or the Joy-Cons of?
Yeah. Also, you can
you can chill.
You are still like wired in, but you can put your hands wherever. Cross my hands. That's one of my favorite ways.
Yeah.
Cross my arms and have
that would like mess me up. I'd start to.
Yeah, I think that would be a problem for me.
I remember when I first got my Switch, I'd have my Joy-Cons and I'd have a blanket. I'd be holding them like under the blanket.
Total cozy mode.
Great,
yeah. So I mean that is cool about this game. I think GoldenEye is the only other game that's like had a control scheme like that. So it is cool to see people like thinking about at this time.
You could do that on not on Super Nintendo. On Super Nintendo, when you played Smash TV, you just had the D-pad was your direction, and then the 4 face buttons were the shooting directions, almost like a second D-pad. But on NES, with Smash TV, you could, I think it's even supported the 4 controller adapter, but I know you could do it single player with 2 NES pads like that.
Whoa. I didn't know Smash TV was on NES as well. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the NES, so it's not the greatest port.
I can't even imagine what that looks like. I'm
okay.
gonna look this up after we're done.
Well, I had Smash TV on the Game Gear, on the Sega Game Gear, and that obviously does not have the option to have multiple. I mean, you only have 3 buttons aside from the D-pad, and the options there were to either always be firing in the direction that you were facing, which has some pretty serious downsides, or if you push the other button, it would lock into firing whatever direction you were firing and just hold it there regardless of where you moved. which also has some pretty serious downsides. It was a very difficult game to play on Game Gear.
That was Smash TV?
That was Smash TV, yeah.
Okay. Because we did watch a little video that kind of went through there's a million different ports of the original Robotron. And some of them had that too. They had that control style. And I guess it's worth mentioning too, this Robotron 64 originally came out on PlayStation as, I think, Robotron X, I think it was.
Yeah.
Wait, we're calling it, it's Robotron 64. Oh yeah. It's the original. It's 2084 because they wanted to make it 100 years after 1984. Anyway, yeah, Robotron X on the PlayStation. We watched a little bit of gameplay of it. It looked pretty similar. There was some like graphical differences, obviously. Stages looked different and stuff, but anyway, yeah, I guess that would have also been before the DualShock controller, so I guess they would be using face buttons there. So
you mentioned on a previous episode about being at the arcade the SNK rotary sticks that you spun the joystick to control the direction you were firing.
Guerrilla War, Guerrilla Fighters. I don't. Yeah.
There's Guerrilla War. There's one called Ikari Warriors. There's a bunch of them.
I know that game. Okay, yeah.
And most of them are pretty good, but I think the twin stick is a much more elegant solution because the rotary controllers were kind of a pain in the ass, and if you didn't have the rotary controller, you just couldn't play the game.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah,
like that is kind of a neat solution. The rotary is kind of neat, but it also clearly is not the most elegant approach.
I think maybe if it was like a slower paced game or something, it could be cool. Like,
yeah.
But where you have to quickly be doing that stuff, it starts to, I get like almost like arthritis or something in my fingers, which, a lot of gaming gives me that, but like that really was killer. One with the controls. This is another negative thing. I'm sorry, Robotron, but we did the 2-player mode, which I get it. It was all right, but the fact that you take turns, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. But you also had to swap controllers, and we're sitting there with the 2 controllers and
trying to hand them to each other.
And it's similar to when you're playing single player, when you die or whatever, it's like, all right, let's go, and so like we had to pass these quickly. It was not the best. I would say. I guess I could pause it.
Yeah, sometimes we had to do a pause.
But and we're not relaxing because we're both holding our controllers up high, like getting ready to toss them to the other.
Ready at all times.
They should just made it so you could. Sorry.
How can you relax? How can you relax when the fate of the final human family is in your hands?
I love picking those guys up. Like I love
this. I read in the Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the N64 library a multiplayer suggestion, which is to play it like single player, but use both controllers, and each person gets to hold one controller. So one person is walking and one person is shooting.
We have to do that,
which was cool because you've done stuff like that with
Zelda,
with the Joy-Cons.
That's fun to do. Maybe we'll do a stream where we do that. That could be fun.
It's like a couple of kids. One's on the gas pedal, the other's on the steering wheel. Like,
oh yeah. We could have some fun with that for sure. But they should just let you pick what. I don't know how it works, but they should have just been like, okay, 3 and 4 can be player 2.
Yeah.
Or do you want to play with one controller? Taking turns was fine, but it would have been cool. I don't know how this if it could have been done. It would have been cool if you could play at the same time. That would have boosted the game like a whole grade to me,
A co-op would have been nice. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder. I feel like they must have tried that. I wonder if there's a performance issue with that, and they were frame rate drops too much.
I can see it because there are times where like a lot of stuff is going on at once in the game.
I'm wondering if that is why this happened multiple times, I think for both of us, where we would kill all of the enemies, but there would be some stray shot or something that would hit us before before it registered that you had finished the level. So I'd die, and then, when my turn came up again, it would just instantly clear the level because I had finished it.
Oh, yep. We had that happen more than once for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Yeah,
but
that was a little annoying. That did happen to me a few times.
But I was accumulating enough lives that they became, until the very, very end, they were like mostly meaningless. So I'd be like, okay, I guess I died. There were certain levels where, and again, this was when we did our long one on easy, but there were levels where I was like, I'm just going to tank through this one and like die a couple times, or I guess times where I didn't have any choice. Like when we were fighting the brain enemies are very difficult in this.
Yes.
I think too, the final boss that's in there that they duplicate, he kind of I feel like there's a Smash TV like enemy that looks like it. It felt like it at least fit in that world.
Smash TV had the Mutoid Man, which is like the guy from the torso up on the tank treads.
I think that's what it reminded me of, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was one that was just a giant face that was like a circle, and then one was two giant snake heads. But yeah, I think the Mutoid Man, I got that vibe a little bit too.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool boss, I guess. But again, you have to play for like 4 hours or 2 hours maybe. Maybe by yourself it's not. I feel like it should be an hour, but anyway, sorry. I stopped talking about the runtime of the game.
Well, I do think like the music is pretty good, and like the overall visual look is good. I like the psychedelic thing. I feel like when I see video games in particular that kind of do that, like lots of trippy 60s psychedelic stuff, it always feels like it's trying a little too hard to me, but I thought it worked okay here. I thought it was fine. And the original game has a ton of like cycles through rainbow colors and stuff. So it fit thematically, like, and historically there. But that did help. Like the music get going, and then, you only have like a second or so or whatever between stages, but it kind of kept me going.
The original is like a bit mesmerizing when it does it.
Yeah.
In the remake, the 64 version or whatever, it's less mesmerizing, and we sort of had that feeling of like, oh, what's between each level they like shoot a little message out
title,
at you, or the title, or they'll be like, you will die or whatever, and like there was for a while at least there was a thrill of like, what are they gonna say next?
Yeah, those were fun. I liked that, and I will say, like, when I first fired it up and I saw the what is basically the Mario 64 head, but it's a bald guy shooting alien. I was like, oh, can I grab his nose and pull it around like I can in Mario?
That's a big missed opportunity.
Not, unfortunately. But yeah, at first I was like, I don't know if I really like this. But over time, because you see that face at between every stage, he grew on me.
I like the character. It made me appreciate going back to the original, and you see his little sprite, and it does have like I was like, oh yeah, well, he does have the big goggles. Before I wouldn't really like take note of what it's supposed to, the Eugene character is supposed to be. So yeah, vibes were off, actually. Well, not off the charts, but they were really cool. Like the music, it was very much in the Tetrasphere camp of like cool electronic music, or like Extreme G sort of.
I like the little like Flight of the Bumblebee when you had those like little challenge levels.
Yeah, that was cool.
Bees flying around, yeah.
Those were, I can't believe I forgot about those, because I really enjoyed those, because that reminded me of like Galaga and stuff from that era, where they'd be like, oh, we're just going to have a fun stage, see if you can shoot them all.
It's always like a nice break, because you're like, I can disappoint myself by not doing the best, but I can't fail. So it's like in this, I never felt bad because I could never figure out how to do it. But in Galaga, like some of the ones I've gotten used to, when I like mess it up, I kind of am hard on myself a little bit. You idiot! You could do this. This I was always getting ran into by the insects or whatever, and I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do there, but sometimes you just like start shooting all in a circle. Like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. Challenge stages were cool. Yeah, all around, I think a solid game. It's definitely not one I could play for long lengths, but it's probably a game. Well, we're gonna revisit it for sure. We're gonna play it at least the 2-controller way.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be kind of fun, at least for a while. Maybe we'll try it on medium.
This is going to make the game sound like less than it is, but it's like a perfect game to put on if you're like kind of watching something else or listening to something.
Yeah.
It's like just a perfect vibes game to just sit and chill with and be like, all right, I'm actually listening to a podcast, but you know, I can do this while I'm doing it. And
yeah, I'm watching wrestling and I'm
Yes.
That's what I would for sure.
It's cool to check out. I haven't played a lot of like twin stick shooters.
You play the one in Stardew Valley?
Yeah, I was just thinking. I think that was my first twin stick shooter.
I like that. It's a cute little game.
Yeah,
not bad.
That one's got good music too. But
yeah,
a whole
definitely.
different. Yeah. Okay. So Robotron 64. We respect you.
Throughout the history of the world, man has become the ultimate master into his unending quest for advancement. To better his own purposes on Earth and in his explorations throughout the universe, man has found it both necessary and advantageous to develop a virtual army of robots. As always, man has poured every ounce of technological skill he possesses into achieving the perfect and ultimate Robotrons, a species of robots that can literally think and act for themselves. It is the year 2084. The Robotrons have revolted. They have determined that the human race is both weak and at the same time destructive. Therefore, to perpetuate their own existence, they have turned on their makers and masters, and now threaten the whole of humanity. You alone must stop them and prevent the ultimate destruction of the world.
Okay, let's move into a totally different area here.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, let's, McKenna, tell us about Nagano Winter Olympics 98.
Nagano Winter Olympics 98 is a multi-event sports game based on the 1998 Winter Olympics. It features multiple skiing and snowboarding events, speed skating, bobsleigh, luge, and curling. The skiing events include downhill, slalom, ski jumping, and freestyle, while the snowboarding events include slalom and halfpipe. In the speed skating, bobsleigh, and luge events, you'll compete to score the fastest times. And in curling, you'll play against another team to score the most points. There are 2 game modes, Olympic and Championship. In Olympic mode, you'll choose one event and compete for a gold medal. In Championship mode, you'll compete in 7 events, scoring points for each event. Score the highest amount of points at the end to win.
All right. So I guess maybe we should talk about the Winter Olympics in general. We haven't had an Olympics. We've talked about the Olympics because they occurred in real life recently, I guess. We talked about it a little bit, but we have not touched on the Olympics at all in the show because we started shortly after the Atlanta, the Richard Jewell one is what I think of them as now.
Yeah.
Think of that. Yeah. So
memorable for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. So yeah, this is our first, I don't know, Winter Olympics. Jeremy, you remember these Olympics? Were you hyped up? Were you into them?
I don't remember these Olympics specifically, but I am very much a Winter Olympics over Summer Olympics kind of guy. I know most people feel the other way, but I don't know. I like skiing. I like snowboarding. I love the weird stuff like biathlon, which if you've ever fired a rifle before and cross-country skied, you know that that's an insanely difficult thing to do, what they're doing. That's the one where they just like cross-country ski as fast as possible and then have to do a bunch of target shooting every few like every half mile or something.
Wait,
And
what?
it's like,
I didn't know about that one.
yeah, it's a crazy event, and
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it's basically like it's like an extension of like people in like the Scandinavian countries being like, well, we have to cross country ski and shoot a reindeer to live, you know. So
fair. Look, my
these athletes are like skiing so hard and so fast, and then they stop and somehow don't miss a single shot. It's just outrageous how they're able to do it. I have no idea how they do it, but
God,
yeah, I love the Winter
game?
Olympics.
That should have been
I know
in the
that
game.
would be so good.
I would play a whole game of that. Like,
yeah, here's the spoiler alert. I love curling. It's great.
Yeah.
Great in this game. It's great in real life.
Do you follow it in real life and stuff?
Not really, but whenever the Winter Olympics come around, I do try to watch the curling events because it's usually like a team of elderly women that win the gold.
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, we're gonna talk more. We're gonna definitely we're gonna have a curler on in a few episodes too. So we're gonna get the full scoop on. We're gonna really get the dirt on curling, what goes on there. But it's one I've always known.
The drama.
The drama, yeah. That's what we'll focus on.
Well, I will say, I think to get away from curling, I think for me, like, because I haven't done it in many years now, but I used to downhill ski semi-regularly. I really enjoyed that, and like, to me, that's more relatable than watching someone run or swim really fast, because I just cannot do that stuff at all.
Okay,
and so,
yeah.
I know there are some like pretty genuine like critiques that most of the Winter Olympic sports require a much more significant investment in equipment and, you know, lift tickets and stuff, whereas like running, anyone can run for free, you know. So I understand there's like some real criticisms about the games and whatnot, but I do love the Winter Olympics. So
okay, so I mean, McKenna, you've gone skiing. I've never skied in my life.
I've gone snowboarding.
Oh, sorry. Was it much like the game?
It was much easier in the game.
Not if you're trying to hit a 1080 or something.
Well, I went snowboarding once, and I basically spent the
Okay.
whole time like trying to figure out how to go, and it's like scary when you pick up speed, especially when you're just learning, and you're like, I hope I don't mess up, because if I do, I could snowboard right into those trees and go home very injured.
Yeah,
I did wake up extremely sore the next day. I like rolled myself out of bed.
This is a classic downhill story you're telling, because you think to yourself, well, that doesn't look too hard, and then you get up there and you're like, what am I doing? I have no idea what's going on. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, I didn't know I had those muscles and they hurt so bad.
Even just getting off the ski lift was scary.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I've never. I'd be afraid to get on the lift for sure.
Skiing is much easier. So give
I've
skiing
heard.
a shot.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll do that. We'll do that.
I mean, I do love skiing because of how much James Bond skis. I do like it for that. I love those scenes. And he also invented snowboarding.
Yes.
View to a Kill. So that's I've never done either. I've ridden a snowboard for a second, like, you know, when you're a kid and you're at the sledding hill and there's a kid who's got a snowboard. I think I might have. I don't even know if I had one, but I maybe rode in other kids. But
I probably tried to ride a sled, like a snowboard.
I've definitely tried that. Yeah. This is a lot like the Winter Olympics, what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of Olympic events. Do you like the Winter Olympics, McKenna?
Yeah, I haven't really watched them recently, but I think I watched the Olympics a lot growing up. I liked watching the figure skating.
That was sick.
Yeah.
We watched some we watched the opening and closing ceremony. I think the Nagano Olympics happened in like February. So we're like, this makes sense of the game release. So we did watch some of that, and we watched some of the figure skating. And someone did a backflip, which was sick. But apparently, you're
Yeah.
not supposed to
No,
do that.
yeah. It's one of those dangerous moves.
It's like a pile driver, you know.
One of the moves they've probably banned because it broke so many necks.
It was scary when the person did it, for sure. I don't know if we watched some of the stories out of this Olympics, but I don't know if there's any feature length films about any events from this Olympics. Yeah, I don't know what the big events were that year. Some guy I think his guts were all messed up or something, right?
Oh, it happened before, right? It was the skier.
Yeah.
He had previously he had an injury previously, and they were talking about how he had come back and like I guess his previous injury, like he it was possible he could have died from it, and then he wasn't sure if he was gonna come back skiing, but he did.
There was
Is
no
he the guy that did pretty well.
I don't know. We're like
There was one skiing. There was the slalom event that we were watching that like a whole bunch of skiers wiped out on one of the first turns.
I wiped out on all of those. This game itself, it's our second, I think, Konami sports game. We had International Superstar Soccer, and then I was thinking about one we're preparing for in our next episode. But I think the first thing that stood out when we started playing it, which was I think in the same vein as the other ones, the game has cool vibes. I think like the way they present their sports titles looks cool to me. The music is cool. It's like it's still like in that era where we're writing like original music and not just.
It reminded me a lot. It reminded me a lot of the International Superstar Soccer 64 music.
It's not like it's. I wonder. I didn't look if the composers were the same, but
I was going to say I didn't look it up either, but I had a feeling it might be because they sounded very similar to me in a way that I enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like the same house band, was on there.
And I did like just not even the game, but like the actual Olympics graphic design, like the mascots they had. I thought those were really cool. The little sort
mascots,
squiggly characters of like owls and stuff.
Yeah,
those were good.
You looked up the story on the owl.
Yes.
Oh, you don't have it on you right now. That's okay.
They have names.
That was cool.
Oh,
They basically had like these cartoon owls, and they represented like your save slots and stuff.
A million times better than the Atlanta Olympics mascot Izzy, which was a blue something or other. He had a Super Nintendo game. I remember that.
Okay.
I don't even think it was sports. I think it was a platformer.
We should play that.
All right.
If I remember right, it got very poor reviews in basically every magazine.
Suki, Noki, Leki, and Tsuki. That last Tsuki with a T at the beginning. The first two letters in their names combined spell out Snowlets. Yeah, this is from the Game Facts Guide from Who Was Phone 404. What he said. What else did he say about it? They represent both the four elements, the four major islands of Japan, and the 4 years between each Olympics.
Okay, that's
to be honest,
fitting.
That last one feels like a stretch, but I'll allow it.
Hey, if they can squeeze it in, we'll give it to them. So
was this around the time when they switched it from the summer and winter being the same year to it being offset?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it was somewhere. I think you're right. I think in the 90s somewhere, because it used to be like a different rotation, and now it's every 2 years. It's one or the other.
So there was. I did look it up. There was not shared composers between the games. They did have groups of composers. One of the composers on Winter Olympics was Akira Yamaoka, who composed for Silent Hill and and the movies actually.
That would be a tonal shift for the Winter Olympics game to suddenly have chain link and rust and concrete everywhere. And
you get Well, I there was like 3 composers too listed too, so I don't know what he did specifically. So who knows? But I like to imagine like playing Silent Hill and
Yeah, either way you flip the music is something I want to experience.
When we're still at the vibes, I think, but when you start it up too, like the opening, just the title screen is cool. I think with the snow coming down and the music, and like the little montage, but also the menu, all the different menu. I was just going into the different menus, even when I didn't need them, just to hear the different tracks. I think the music is really nice. Jeremy, you didn't you didn't play this then back in the day?
I don't think I did, but like I said, this might have been one of the ones that I rented just on the weekend and then started to play and went, oh, I should have rented something else.
Oh.
I have complicated feelings about these sports compilation games, like stuff like California Games, Skate or Die on NES, like all these kind of games that have like a ton of different events, because there's always at least one event that's pretty good, and in some cases that one event is actually really good, and then a lot of the others are not so good. And it's just kind of frustrating because it's like, all right, well, you nailed this one, but everything else here is not great.
There's and I would say that's true of this and a lot of ones you mentioned, but there's also do you think there? I think there's sort of that thing where it's like you wish the event that was good was this could be better if they didn't have to do all the other stuff.
If they just focused entirely on that one event, this game could have kicked ass.
Which is curling. Curling 64 would be like a 5 out of 5, like one of our top rated games if it was like better.
I do have excuse me, on the GameCube, ESPN International Winter Sports 2002, which did not have an Olympic tie-in, but it's basically the same game, like multiple events. But it's got the ESPN branding. It has a different title in other regions, but I don't remember what it is now. But the curling in that one is so good. Like, they nailed it. And my brother and I played so much of just the curling. Like, we would try the other events and go, yeah, these suck. Let's go play curling again.
Yeah, I think
we were saying they need to do like a Wii Sports quality level of this kind of game. Just do like a switch to winter sports game.
Yeah, I guess Wii Sports is kind of like a good example of this done right. And Wii Sports has some weaker titles, and maybe they're a little bit more simple. They're not trying to be like, this is a sim,
Yeah, I don't think you're totally right. I don't know why I didn't think of Wii Sports, because it's the exact same problem, that the bowling is very good and the other events are fine, but it's like the tennis especially, I remember being like, this doesn't feel like it would have taken that much to make this way better.
That's I love the tennis.
That's what,
that's one of my favorite ones in it.
I didn't hate it. I just felt like, I wish there was more, I wanted more out of it.
So I think this game has less hits than like Wii Sports, for example. And there is more going on, but I wonder what goes into like, what do we include? Like there's probably some like, I bet there's probably some deals too, right? Like, do you think like big curling is getting in there and be like, look, you gotta have curling or you're not putting out this game,
That is a really fascinating question, actually. I wonder how they decide, because I assume on some level they're like, well, we could do a downhill, which means we can do like a couple different events. We did the long jump, so we can tweak it subtly, and now there's 2 events, and it's like, okay, that makes sense, but like, yeah, why is there no figure skating? They could do the same thing they did with the snowboard half pipe, where you just like mash a random input and it gives you a pre-canned animation, which
not even a rhythm game.
It's that was probably too girly for the time.
True, it's not extreme.
Might actually be true.
It's also, manly just sliding down an ice chute.
I feel like figure skating probably would have been done the same way half pipe and the ski freestyle were done, where it would just would have been like select a move and then do button inputs.
Which is, that kind of makes sense, because like you're not going into the figure skating event or the half pipe going, I'm just going to wing it. you're like, I've got some moves I'm going to
gonna
try and
play
pull
it.
off, and I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing here. So that kind of made sense, but then the actual implementation of, hey, you get up to the lip and then you push left and then B twice, and it's like, what the? Like, this isn't even a game at this point.
Full circle with the joystick.
Oh god,
Now,
the full
I know-
circles. Oh my god.
I know we haven't got to 1080 snowboarding yet, but like,
We're close.
it's such a good game, and there were so many good snowboarding games in that era, and then to see that was just like, oh no, this is not good.
Yeah, that's where I got thinking, like, that was one where they're probably like, okay, well, I don't know. Is it like we just don't have time to work on like a snowboarding mechanic like that?
Yeah.
Or was it like they were thinking of like, we're trying, how do we simulate it the best we can? And the best they came up with is what you said. Like, well, no, it's a pre-rehearsed routine. So like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to. I'm sure someone out there knows like how they decide these things. So let us know. But
And I have to assume that the Winter Olympics game was not like at the highest level of priority in Konami headquarters. So on some level, they're probably like, we're throwing the B team at this, and you guys got 6 months.
okay, McKenna, just playing the game, or should we just talk about all the events? I guess that's probably what we should do. Overall thoughts though you had on just playing it.
I'd say the races, other than curling, were probably more fun. I guess that's yeah.
That was the first thing I tried.
Some of the stuff was kind of hard to figure out.
Yeah,
the ski jumping. We had to like hold the joystick back and then forward. I was like, what is this?
If you say so. I don't think I ever got down the ski jump. I think I didn't try it that many times because I got so frustrated, but I think I immediately fell after I stood up off of the bar every single time because I could not figure out what the hell they were talking about. Those on-screen controls, like saying, it would say like use stick and A, and it was like, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, even
I don't know what you want.
Was a bit tricky, I will say. I did like the jumps were cool because what you had to hold down is what it was. And I think that's kind of stupid. That it's like you have to start it holding down. Because I did the same thing where like I started it and I just immediately stumble. But I did like the feeling of like the way you jump is you at the top of the ramp, you like flick up on the joystick. And so there was kind of a thrill to like launching myself and balancing, like I never landed good, but.
And I would love to try that. And I'll try that after we get off of the recording here because I could not figure that out.
It was cryptic. It was like, I felt like I solved a puzzle in like a obscure RPG. Not quite that level, but it was like, what the hell? Like even the commands are just like, it'll say like B button is command or something. And I'm like, what does that mean? I could see what they're going for with a lot of the events, though. I feel like they're trying to capture some core mechanic to what you're doing. Like when you're doing the speed skating, they're trying to get the left, right.
Yeah.
Motion.
That one worked pretty well, I thought. That one I thought actually was pretty intuitive compared to basically all the other events.
We had like mixed, like we struggled with it sometimes.
Yeah, I couldn't quite figure out the stamina, which was important on the longer one.
Most of the games I was playing, and I would be like, I wouldn't even place. I wouldn't even be close. And then I did the short speed skating one, and it was like first try, I got like a bronze or whatever. I was like, whoa. And then I couldn't replicate it, so I was like, I don't know.
That was my experience. The speed skating was one of the last ones I did, but those were the only events I ever hit the podium. Because I would feel like I would do like the downhill or whatever skiing, and I'd be like, I felt like that went pretty well, and then I would get like 18th. And I was like, okay, well, what the hell is going on here? How could I have done that better?
And I think it speaks to like the fact that there's like a lot of games, relatively speaking, and not a lot of like new, like there's not a lot like to do with either game other than like play them a million times. So like all of them for the most part, are like extremely hard, I think.
Yeah.
Like to get good at, it felt like, okay, to get good at the downhill skiing race thing, it's like you have to actually like nail it in a way that not like at an Olympic level, but you know what I mean? You'd have to like nail the run to like the best you possibly could playing the game, you know?
So McKenna, you mentioned GameFAQs earlier. I went on there to try and figure out the controls, and I had this quote I wanted to read from this because I thought this was I felt so much better about myself after I read this, to be honest. And keep in mind, you go to that site, and I've been going to that site for literally decades now, and you think a lot of the FAQs are written in like 1998 or whatever, This one was written in 2022.
Whoa.
And the person says, you beat this game by earning a gold medal in all 12 events in Olympic mode and then winning a golden championship. Theoretically, you could turn the game on and win every event on your first try, beating the whole game in less than half an hour. But it is not that simple. Each time you attempt an event, the results of the other athletes will be randomized. This means that even if you are playing perfectly, it will be impossible to win gold. However, the chances of the CPU playing badly are much less than them playing well. Silverwings is the only person who has beaten the game with proof. He finished the game in a highly respectable 5 hours, 15 minutes, 40 seconds. I have incorporated his strategies into this guide, so all credit to their discovery goes to him. Without his run, I would have been unable to finish the game. It took me twice as long at 10 hours, 49 minutes, and 15 seconds. And when I read that, I was like, oh, I'm not bad at this. It's just not designed very well.
Right. Wow, I had no idea. I just really thought like, oh, I'm just like, I got to get really good at this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think the deck is definitely stacked against you when you play this game, which is kind of a bummer to learn.
Well, I feel less bad. But I will say in general, there's like maybe half of the events, maybe less. There's the curling, which is just fun in general. But then there's the other ones that are like, regardless of how I do, they're just fun to do. You know what I mean? Like the skiing downhill one is like really fun. I'll never get above, like I'll never get in the top 10, but it's like, and it's not like I'm going to always be going back to it, but it could be a thing to throw on every now and then just to goof. Even less than Robotron. Like you couldn't kill that much time playing it, but I feel like doing, like if I ever just needed to center myself, I could just do a downhill run in the skiing and I would like be settled down, Same thing. I think the bobsled and the luge, like those are a little bit fun. You can spin out and
yeah.
Those gave me the same kind of like weird reptilian brain satisfaction as like seeing the pinball go down like the rails on the machine. It's like in this little track, it's in its little home and it just goes down the track. And those are pretty fun, but
I think
you're never going to win them.
No, yeah, I was like, what do I
like getting all the athletes into the sleigh at the same time.
That is fun.
Or not same time, at their own pace.
Yeah, before you cross the start line or whatever. Yeah. That is fun. That is a really fun part of it.
I biffed that pretty hard, and we were going so slow when we crossed the start line. I was like, oh no.
You're like,
the first time I did it, I was just like, all right, as soon as it hits green, they're going in. And I was like, oh, that was not the way to do it.
Yeah, you're just like, you mashed it or whatever. Yeah. So you had that moment. Do you remember this? Like, I did it like once before we streamed it. I'd done it once and I did it and I was like, okay, like that was cool. Like, I don't know if I did anything after I got in, but it was fun. And so you were starting it. Do you remember this?
Are you talking about where I flipped?
Yeah. You were starting it and you were going down and you were heading to your first turn. I was like, I don't even know if you can fail at this. And you immediately turned your thing upside down.
Immediately ended 4 athletes' lives.
But this is not a thing at McKenna. because then I was like, okay, here I go. I'm going to do it. And I did the same thing. So like, I don't know. I don't know how, like, that's one where I don't know when you're supposed to lean. That might be something if you're like a bobsledding.
All the races are like a balance between going fast and turning. Too fast, you don't turn, you'll fall over.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little surprised they didn't have skeleton in there. The one where it's like one person face forward on a sled, because once you build that engine to do like the ice track for bobsled and whatever, like there's like 4 or 5 different events that use the exact same track that you could just throw a different model into it and like tweak the mechanics a little bit. So I was a little bit disappointed there weren't more events. But at the same time, I was like, well, a lot of these aren't very good, so maybe it's fine that we don't have even more that aren't very good.
Trying to think what I feels like if they should have cut like half the, it should have seriously been like how many, I guess we're far beyond that era, so maybe you have to have more, but how many did like California games have or whatever? Like that wasn't that many games, right?
Yeah, I think there were like 5 or 6. I can't remember.
Okay.
I know Skate or Die on NES had like 5 different events or so, something like that.
Okay, I guess it's not different from here because there's a lot of like duplicate things, so I don't know.
Which, by the way, speaking of Skate or Die, there is a Ski or Die on NES, and one of the events in that is you are in a snow fort throwing snowballs at children who are trying to pelt you with snowballs. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Should be added to the Olympics, I think. There were some little touches in this that were fun, like some physics stuff, like if you bumped like one of the flags when you were skiing and you like do this, or you could like
I was doing that all the time because I was trying to cut the corners really.
You were getting like the pro strats, yeah. There's an edging button for that as well.
Yes.
That's always when you're starting a level and it's just like A for edging. I'm like, okay, I guess this is kind of game.
It was a different time.
Yeah, you could get away with a lot then. Despite the quality, a lot of them it's a similar experience. You play it, you do bad, and you move on with your life. I guess there's the championship mode or whatever, which it seems like it's just like an endless cycle of play this round of games. It seems like.
I think you just go. Well, man, I might be wrong actually, but I think the championship is you just do all 12 of the events in order.
It's 7.
Yeah, I think some of the duplicate ones it takes out, right?
Oh, okay. So you only do one long jump.
Actually, don't know. Is it the same every time?
I don't know. I just remember like we played through them and then it was like, okay, hit whatever to continue, and we were just like doing it again. So I was like, okay, you enter into championship mode and you're in like an endless loop of winter sports unless I miss, maybe if you beat it or something, I don't know.
Winter sports purgatory, just never ending.
I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna go into championship mode again. I'm good.
No, I just want to like pick the event that I want to play and play.
Yeah, I already deleted our data for it because all the other games take up too much memory.
See if I can beat Alucard.
Yeah, is that really one of the people's name from Germany? His name was Alucard.
Wait, are you serious?
No, I
didn't catch
that. Just a reference, I think.
Oh, because
where did I read that?
Oh, because it's Konami.
Yeah, I didn't see. I read about it somewhere. I didn't see any of the other names, but I saw there was also like there was like a Metal Gear Solid one.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah,
and I Silver is Big Boss.
Else.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that. I'm an idiot. I just saw that and I like because it gives you like everyone's scores, and I was like, oh, there's a dude named Alucard. What the hell?
Well, yeah, because it's got like the Olympic license, but they wouldn't have the license to use the actual athletes, of course, because that seems like a nightmare to make that work license wise. But
yeah, apparently there's also an M Gear and a C Wiggum.
Oh, okay. Because
what's that one from?
Simpsons, I think, right? Because they did the arcade.
Oh
game.
Yeah,
Chief Wiggum, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
That would be weird that they would like we're inserting our own characters and Chief Wiggum, but whatever.
You're speed skating and Chief Wiggum's just there speed skating next to you, defeating you soundly.
I still feel so stupid that I just thought that was a real guy's name, but okay.
I will say one thing that I did like about this, I think the controls were baffling, but the original, like, again, going back to the very original, like, track and field in the arcade, all you did was, like, mash the buttons as fast as possible and then hit another button to, like, jump. So you'd do the long jump, you'd mash as fast as possible to run up to the line, and then you hit the button to jump. And people would use, like, pencils or combs to, like, they had a little trick where they could hit the buttons even faster somehow.
Oh, yeah. That's in King of
And
Kong's.
then the arcade operators would install these shields around the button, these little plastic walls, so that you couldn't hit the button with the pencil or whatever. It's like a weird arms race. But I liked that this game had way more variety in the controls. And like you said, you hold down on the stick and then you flick up, like kind of like the skate games where you do the tricks, by like ollieing, by like flicking down and up. It feels more like appropriate to the sport. Now, the implementation, I think, is pretty bad, and the instructions are non-existent, but I appreciated that there was more variety there.
There's exclusive countries in the game to the consoles. Isn't that right?
Can you imagine, like, living in the country that is only on the PlayStation version, and you have a Nintendo 64, and you're like, fuck.
Oh, that's embarrassing. Yeah. I wonder if...
Finland. It was Finland and the Netherlands were exclusive to N64, and then China and Korea were exclusive to the PS1.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know if is there... I wonder... Again, that's another thing that I'm like, I wish I could... be a fly on the wall for like those decisions, and see like, I wonder how that was decided.
Because I feel like the PS1 absolutely dominated that generation in Europe. So like, why would you have European countries be exclusive to the N64 version? Like the PS1, like Nintendo never had the same foothold until later that they did that, Sony and Sega did in Europe.
Where did I don't think it said. Maybe it says that on the Wikipedia. Oh no, it says it here. They were developed by two different branches of Konami Japan. I don't know why they did the countries different. There were a few exclusive events.
Oh, what were the events on PlayStation? Should have looked at that. Shoot.
So there was Alpine Skiing Super G. I don't know what that means.
That sounds awesome.
Short track. I don't know what that
speed skating.
That's for.
Oh.
Okay, is that I don't.
It's like
500 and 1000.
Yeah.
Long or large jump, ski jumping.
I was on top of a ski jump once, like during the summer, not during the winter, and it was terrifying. And there's no fucking way you would ever get me on top of one of those things on skis. Absolutely not. It's so tall.
That one I watched, that they had that movie, Eddie the Eagle.
I
watched that.
The guy that wrote the FAQ, I had that quote from. Had a quote from Eddie the Eagle at the bottom because he was British, and he was like, and I was like, well, that's great. I mean, Eddie sucked, but that's not the point.
Is that true? I've only seen the movie, so that's all I got to go off of. I remember they played Thin Lizzy in the movie, so it's good enough for me.
Yeah, not bad.
That was the same. Was that the same Olympics as the Cool Runnings one as well? Like those are the only two winter.
That was like, I think 92, it was the same Olympics. I think. Yeah, I think you might be right.
Oh,
it was either 88 or 92, I think. I'm trying to think about when
that's the extent of my
Cool Runnings was released, and that seems right. It would have been one of those games, I think.
I often just picked who I played as based on who had like the coolest uniform. Did you pick? Who would you pick to play as?
I think I picked Sweden a couple of times. I might have just picked USA once or twice, but
I wasn't doing that.
Yeah,
protest. It's over. It's over for him now. My protest vote on there.
Mr. Trump, Americans are no longer playing as USA and 25-year-old video games. What are we gonna do?
I picked Canada out of solidarity a few times. Yeah, it was all right. I don't know. Both honestly, especially this is a little bit lower than Robotron, I think, but both of these games I do sort of feel like they're pretty okay for what they are. Robotron I would say is solid, but this one I would say it's got some solid stuff, but it's, again, I think like you were saying, like if I rented this, I might have been a little disappointed. Though I could probably spend a whole weekend doing curling.
The curling was really fun to do on stream.
Yeah.
Because we were just like chilling, taking turns, talking to people. We were talking to people in chat about the Olympics and curling.
Yeah.
That's the real curling experience. You're drinking a beer, hanging out with a bunch of friends, just like kind of chill.
We're trying to
Good
figure
vibes.
out there are like nuances on the curling that we couldn't figure out.
Yeah, sometimes I'd set up something that I swore was exactly the same as the way I set it up before, and it would go differently.
And
like I'd be like, I didn't sweep at all that time,
and it would just zoom. And I had this thought where I was like, well, maybe they kind of randomize it a bit for each person, and then I was like, they wouldn't do that. But now hearing what you said, I'm like, they would do that.
Well, when you said that just now, I was thinking like maybe they're accounting for like the surface of the ice and then I was like, no, they didn't do that. Of course they didn't go that detailed.
I wonder is it like, because we read that in curling you take turns doing it, so it's like, oh, maybe this person like throws, like they throw it a little bit harder or something,
We were trying to. I was like, okay, they have 4 people to a team in real life because there's somebody at the other end.
Mm-hmm.
But they did not include a 4th player in the game.
No, that was just economic, like that was smart.
Cuts down on the polygon count.
Yeah.
I did like when you'd start mashing and they have like the sound effect that's like someone yelling or whatever, but it sounded like a little like duck noise or something. And they did have the little like, that was fun.
Because if you watch, like, especially at the Olympic level or like the serious tournament level for curling, if you do watch those, like the people will be like, ah, like yelling about like sweep, 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 But the N64 maybe wasn't quite up to par audio wise in that regard.
Just like, rawr, rawr.
Do you think we could like sweep with Switch 2 Joy-Cons?
Yeah.
Oh.
See, you are pitching the perfect Switch sports.
Or
collection.
Actually, you could push the stone too.
There has to
use
be
the mouse control.
I feel like there has to be a Wii game already that there's probably like a game party that has shuffleboard in it where it has that mechanic.
Curling video games.
I do have some. I can't remember what it's called. I have some winter sports like shovelware game on Wii. But I don't think it actually has curling. It's disappointing.
Come on.
Just
like the bowling. You give it a little English with a twist, like...
Is this
right
curling for Nintendo Switch?
Okay. Does it look good? No, it doesn't look great.
Yeah.
The look on your face is not promising.
Yeah, we'll have to...
I'll have to look at the... there's a Reddit post... curling video games. I'm sure that's got some good info.
Best curling games. Yeah, again, we're gonna have to get some more intel on that.
What's the percentage on that post being made by a Canadian? Like 97%?
The sun rises. Records are shattered. Hearts are broken. Heroes are made. Dreams become realities. The sun sets. Just another day in the 1998 Olympic Winter Games, the ultimate daytime drama on TNT. Coverage begins February 7th.
This is an all right set of games. Again, I think there's some good stuff we'll be taking away from these games, and we'll probably get a little bit more. There's a couple games we've played, and it's like, we'll never see these games again unless we do a 3 an episode where we talk about all the games and its trilogy of game. It's for some reason. But yeah, there's a lot of games like that. I think some of these games, there's some enjoyment that we can get out of them that I could see a little bit more, especially for Nagano again, that like we can get out of it as more of a gimmick or play the curling. So
You'll see us curling again.
Curling will return.
I know this podcast is generally not a heavy critique podcast, not a negative experience, but I'm going to pitch to you at some point you could do like the bottom 5 games or something, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like some sort of tournament of Sculptor's Cut versus
my
Sub-Zero
God.
versus if you're feeling too good about your life and you want to punish yourself.
That's true. We need to assemble that's the thing, because we've been tracking our rankings, especially more on our Patreon, and we've been looking at the overall graphic and being like, what's the ratio of like good to bad on this console? And it started to tip a little bit more into like a little too much on the side. But that's one thing we haven't gauged that you've made me think of is like looking at the bottom 5 and being like, what's the worst of the worst on this console like? Because right now, if I look at like the top negative or the bottom 10, there's still stuff that I'm like, well, this wasn't a bad game.
But there's something there worthwhile.
Bottom 5, it starts to get more like, oh, so that'll be an interesting thing to see, like what, like how low can we go, you know, like how down there can we get in the dirt with this console? So far, it's been not too bad, kind of bad, but not
probably.
Too bad.
I'm just trying to think, like the ratio, like you said, it's probably better than the NES ratio because there was a lot of really bad games on that. The Wii had a lot of really bad games on it. You know, these ones, you know, and other stuff.
The Wii's got to take the cake, right, for Nintendo, I would imagine.
Yeah, like PS1, PS2, there's so many just god awful, like, let's throw some money at this and get rich, you know, and we don't actually know how to make a game.
Sure, okay. But I don't know. We'll see how this pays off in the future. We're really going to answer the question by the end. Does the N64 have games? Right now, I'm going to say probably has games.
Jerry's still out on GoldenEye.
We haven't gotten all the data in yet. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, good. I don't know. It was a good ep though. Regardless, both were worthwhile to experience for sure. Jeremy, thanks again for coming back on the show. Mm-hmm. Always a pleasure.
No problem.
Thanks
for having me.
You got anything like to plug or anything?
Not really. I mean, you can follow me on Blue Sky. I think I'm fmonk.bsky.social, I believe.
Mm-hmm. It's a good follow.
Recorded a side quest for Fun and Games podcast, so look for that one coming.
Oh, you recorded one. Okay.
Yeah.
What give us what game did you do?
I did a game called Nightshade for the NES, which is another Konami thing, actually.
Oh wow!
It's well, technically Ultra Games, but it's like a point and click adventure game essentially.
Cool! That's awesome.
Yeah, okay. kind of an odd one, and it never got released anywhere else or on any other consoles or anything. Although it is on the Nintendo Switch Online NES, so you can play it there and give that a shot.
Ooh, so check it out. Listen to your episode on it when it might be. I don't know how far back they are, but it'll probably be out by the time this comes out.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it's coming out at some point.
Go look up Fun and Games Podcast. We'll promote them. Go look up Fun and Games Podcasts. I've got one on there as well. We've had them on talking about GoldenEye. Great show. So free plug for them.
They're good.
We should. They're great. Yeah, we should not plug, but we should say what our next set of games is. We didn't mention that. But like I said, we're continuing on with some Konami sports titles, and we're talking about NBA In the Zone 98, which we did recently stream. Well, we streamed both these games, but it'll be interesting to see how that's our second basketball game. So that's exciting. Mm-hmm. And then we're also talking about Fighter's Destiny, which we played a little bit of. It's a fighting game. It's really unique, and just from the one sitting, I'm gonna spoil it a little bit. It kind of kicks ass, so I'm excited for that episode. I have high hopes for that game, and maybe we'll see. NBA, there's potential there. We'll see. But yeah. Anyway, thanks again, Jeremy, for coming on and joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, McKenna, for joining me.
Thank you, Goo.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Go check out soundstone.network to check out the other cool shows on the network. And we'll see you later. Bye.
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 I'll say the one owl looked like Brendan Small from Home Movies. Every time I was like, what is happening?
Now that you say that, yep.
The first one. The other ones looked more like owls. That one just looked like a weird version of that character.
Now you go back and play it again and just imagine the running commentary from Coach McGurk. Brendan, what are you doing out there?
Oh my God.
This is terrible.
Okay, someone needs to make the Home Movie soccer game.
Oh man.
Come on.
The ZeldaCast is getting even bigger. Join us on patreon.com/SPNet for access to the ZeldaCast XL, the new bonus show featuring podcasting's dynamic duo, Andy Spiteri and Gooey Fame.
We're taking a new approach to do our bonus shows and giving you more of what you love, letting you get more involved in the show itself. Each month, we'll have some fun and play a few games, answer some Patreon questions, and discuss some Zelda topics on a more personal level.
Consider joining for only $4 a month, and you can ask us questions about Zelda or anything else on your mind. Let us know what topics and segments you want us to discuss, and be a part of an amazing community of Zelda fans hosted by two best friends.
The ZeldaCast XL is taking everything you love about the show and ramping it up even more. So come and hang out with us, only on patreon.com/spnet.